Sambatskano Mongolia, and welcome to the MNC network for my new television program, Allyson. Today I bring you a very popular foreign identity in UB, a very famous Frenchman, Steve Morel. Steve, welcome, my friend. How are you?
I'm very great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on my show. We met about 1 year ago at a TEDx conference that we did together, and I was fascinated by you when I met you and after your TED Talk. So I want you to tell viewers in English all about yourself, about your love of Mongolia, about your projects, about your beautiful Morin Khuur. So let's start at the beginning, Steve. Can you tell us just briefly what brought you to Mongolia?
So, in few words, this instrument brought me in Mongolia. It was like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm a professional director, cinema, movies, short film, and photographer. And back then in Paris, so as I'm French, I was working in Paris. And I was in a very overwhelming situation, a lot of work, very exhausted, and always working for big brand. And back then I was wondering, what am I doing? Because I felt that I was creative, that I could be an artist in a way. And back then I was always working for the dream of others. And it was kind of funny because the guy with whom I was working back then, he's a music composer. He gave me a CD that came from, I don't know where, like from the cousin of his sister, of a friend, the CD traveled to me somehow. And when I heard the CD, the music, it was with Homi, it was from Tuva. And I heard that and I was like, okay, what is that? So I was like totally shocked and emotional.
Wow.
Then after few months of listening only that CD, I was like, okay, now I need to listen other stuff. So I started to check on YouTube, ask around if people would know about this culture, like Tuva and then Mongolia. And then first time I saw this instrument, it was a video of a big Mongolian guy, usual typical Mongolian guy singing Homi and singing on top of a mountain, playing, and I was like, okay, I want to do that.
Hey,
so
Steve, I'm fascinated by this story, and it seems like Mongolia totally grabbed you by the heart. Explain to foreigners who don't know, what exactly is a Morin Khuur, and how did it how did you come to play it?
So what is a Morin Khuur?
Yeah. Tell me.
This is a Morin Khuur. So it's the national instrument of Mongolia. It only got 2 strings. The particularity about those strings is that it's panel of many hair, horse hair. So on this instrument, as it's with the skin, it's also horse hair. In new instrument, the front of the instrument is in wood. It comes from Russian, actually, that got inspired by the Mongolian Morin Khuur and that put the violin technology with the Morin Khuur. So that's why now the new Morin Khuur got wood.
Okay, so you're saying the original Morin Khuurs, the Mongolian ones, were always made with skin on the front. And Steve, listen, you and your teacher actually made this one.
Yeah, actually, I spent 3 months last summer with one very amazing maker.
Who is he? What's his name?
Mongol. And we actually made 2 together. So one is this one with skin to get the natural, original Mongolian sound, and another one with wood to be able to play classical piece and modern music. So I'm very grateful because I could see from the very beginning, from the big piece of wood to the finished instrument, I could see every step with him. And he really shared with me everything without hiding anything, very open, with an open mind, with an open heart. So we spent 3 months together working on the 2 instruments, and that was a very difficult experience, very emotional, because it might look very simple, but it's it's very complex actually. But the skin and inside there is few secret stuff, and so sometimes I was like, oh, that takes so long. But yeah, there is so many steps that we don't imagine.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it was
Well,
very interesting.
I look forward to hearing you play. We're going to save the best for last. You're going to play something for us. Now listen, you've come to love Mongolia. You live here now. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on how globalization might be changing Mongolian culture and Mongolian music. Is this perhaps a dying art form?
Yeah, that's a very broken-hearted question for me. Yeah, I always say the Artin Hukjim, from my point of view. Of course, I don't know everything, so I really want to put a warning because I don't know everything. The thing is, when I wanted to learn more modern piece, more classic thing, the information are very easy to access. There is books. Most people knows those pieces. The information goes around very easily.
Right.
But to get the knowledge of, for example, the bibilge, the maktal, so the praise. The bibilge is the national dance that is also a form of fitness, kind of. The original urtindo, the words. It's very kind of difficult to find those information because most of the time there is no books except for urtindo and Töl. And most of the time it's in people's head, and they don't always know the original version. They just know 1 or 2 paragraphs, not everything. So sometimes I need to get 3-4 paragraphs from one guy, then from another person, few others, and then combine together. So it's a very unfortunate. And also the other point I want to share is that this instrument got a soul of its own, and as a little story, when I changed the strings, as I use horsehair, depending on how the horse was, the instrument is more or less difficult to play.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So are you saying if you pull a hair from a difficult horse, the Morin Khuur
gonna have a difficult temper?
But how interesting! So it does indeed have a soul of its own. That's very interesting.
Also to give another a point to suggest that this instrument got a soul. There is a story when a mother camel give birth. Sometimes that mother camel reject the little baby, and there is a ritual to do to actually help the mother accept the baby again. And sometimes there is someone singing with a Morin Khuur, but if there is no one that can play the Morin Khuur, we just use the instrument, put it on the back of the camel, and with the wind the Morin Khuur gonna play a song, and the camel gonna cry, and so we don't even need a person. The instrument itself give like all this energy and is very like kind of magical.
Listen, I love you telling these stories. So important. You're so knowledgeable on everything Mongolian. No. So yeah, I really congratulate you on sharing what you've learned here. What would be your advice for the younger generation of Mongolians who aren't familiar with the Morin Khuur and perhaps some of Mongolia's traditional songs? What would be your advice to these youth?
To learn?
Yeah.
So to connect with the previous question, there is kind of 2 ways in the Morin Khuur from what I saw. There is like, of course, the modern school, taught kind of like the foreign way with like the note learning the music theory and playing like with orchestra. So there is that way of playing, kind of using the Morin Khuur like a cello, which in my opinion kind of destroy that philosophical energy that presents that spirit that the instrument got, because it's kind of using it as a foreign tool from my point of view. And the second way is the traditional way to play it. So without like theory, all just by
without
repeating,
theory.
Yeah, just like listening. I always say a grandpa, listening a grandpa play and thinking a little bit, trying again to repeat and just practice like that with the ear and just trying to impregnate what the guy tried to transmit and get that and try to get it back with our own feeling, with like another feeling. So there is kind of those two ways. So for someone who wants to learn this instrument, needs to kind of choose one way or another, because there is a physiological difference in the two. Now I really choose the traditional way, and something in the classical way of playing are very, very complicated or even like impossible to do because of the gymnastic, the way I use my finger, the way but when I play Ardin, when I play traditional, it sounds like very traditional because I put all my energy into that way. So for someone who wants to learn, kind of choose one or the other and go into it. So
fascinating, very, very interesting.
And as a last thing, for the classic, I will not talk about classic because it's not my field. But for the traditional music, it's very important to understand, for example, for the urtindo, the long song, to understand the meaning of the song. I always say that example, if I play Jaran Charak, which is a very beautiful long song and also maybe one of the most sad, maybe one of the saddest long song that Mongolia got. If I think about Tovshuur, or if I think about barbecue when I play that song, it's gonna sound weird or it's gonna sound fake, of course. So I need to know what it is about, why it's sad, what is the meaning, to get something that is a little bit
You're
original.
really talking about playing with your heart and soul.
And understand, feeling the countryside, the smell, understanding like all those. That's why when I came in Mongolia, it was just for the instrument, but I understood quite quickly that I cannot play that instrument if I don't know how to make Tovshuur, if I don't know how to ride a horse, if I don't smell the countryside like Argal, all that is part of the playing. So that's why I learn as much as I can around the Mongolian culture.
Wow. What a truly unique man you are. We're lucky that you're here. Steve, you are very knowledgeable in Mongolian traditional scripts, texts, songs. Before we get on to a book you've been working on, would you, for our viewers, our foreign viewers, give me a couple of your favorite Mongolian proverbs, say them in Mongolian, and then explain their meaning in English.
Okay. So one of my favorite one, actually I have two that I really love and that I use kind of all the time. The first one is actually the first proverb, the first sentence I learned in Mongolian. So it's Edzin hichevel zaya kichin. It means literally, if one's try, the destiny will give its best. And the equivalent in English is like, help yourself and God or universe will help you. So
brilliant.
It's
thank you for sharing that one.
Very, very nice.
It. And the second one?
The second one is Osin ovat yosin daran. It means if I drink the water, I need to follow the custom. So for someone to be whatever the place it is, and to drink the water, to use the food of that place, that person needs to follow the custom, the tradition, the way of living of this place, because this person use this environment.
How interesting.
So
very similar to when in Rome.
To?
When one is in Rome, one must do as the Romans.
Yeah, that's the equivalent, I guess.
Hey, Steve, I have to share with you one of my favorite Mongolian proverbs. I learned this a few years ago, and it's a way to describe someone, and it's hun tuqui nohoi shinshikui, which means it's a way to describe someone who is perhaps very lonely and nobody hangs out with them. But not only that, the dogs don't even want to smell these persons. Isn't that funny? Yeah, ignored by people, not sniffed by dogs. I bloody love
my
that.
God.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah,
Interesting.
and I talked to a bunch of Mongolians the other day, a young group of people, and they said it's still said quite often. Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to teach you that
Mongol,
one.
thanks for sharing.
Sorry, I'm going to write it down for you later.
Actually, Mongolia is really the land of the proverb.
Yes.
The comparison, even in the long song, in the maktaj, in the legend, it's all like that. I mean, it's we will get on it later about the book, but sometimes just one sentence, just one verse in Mongolian is telling more than a Spielberg movie.
Yeah, I
It's like
totally agree. Yeah.
very, very
you
powerful.
really can't speak Mongolian fluently unless you can say the proverbs and understand them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love the ones you shared. Now, Steve, I want to get onto the book now because this is the most exciting thing. In 2005, you launched this project where you are explaining to Westerners, foreigners, in French and English, I believe, about the Mongolian culture. I want you to elaborate on this and tell us about it.
So first, how did it start? Actually, again, as I want to play the Morin Khuur truthfully, I need to translate the song I play to understand. And at some point I was thinking that I could just share with people all the things I translate, because if it interests me, maybe it can interest others. So the most difficult part is to actually find the words, as I was saying before. To find the words of old things sometimes can be quite difficult. And once I have the text, there is around like 10-15% around, from whom I collect information and knowledge. So there is some of my teacher, literature teacher, history, some scientists, and some people also in the States and in France that help me put some style on the poetry, on the translation. And it's actually in 4 languages.
In 4 languages?
The first is in Cyrillic. Actually, the first is in Mongol Bichik. Unfortunately, some Mongolian cannot read it, so I also put the Cyrillic version. And then in English and in French.
Wow.
And when I think that the text is good enough on its own, I don't really put explanation. But when there is a layer, for example, first layer can be the land is beautiful. Second layer is be careful with what someone says, and it can be like multiple layer of understanding. Then I put a context and an explanation, and then the translation.
Right.
And each time in the 4 language, because some Mongolians, unfortunately, also doesn't know like the deep meaning of a song or of a poem. So I do like that word.
You're bringing traditional Mongolian back.
I try to.
Yeah. Wow. Listen, how can people help you with this endeavor, and how does one go about ordering a copy of this book? Is it finished?
It's around like 40%. So almost all the texts are translated in the first step in English. Then I need to translate in French, of course, then compose some are already composed, the explanation. And then I need to send all that to the few scientists I got to be sure that what I'm saying is accurate and that I don't miss anything. So I hope to release by the end of the year, around like September, October, November, like this time, last quarter of this year. And to support that project, every information are on my website.
Okay,
so
spell out, tell us your website and spell it, because I want everyone who's listening to you today to support your endeavor and to order a copy.
Please.
Yeah, no, I've ordered a couple. So I mean, it's so important because you are actually you're a historian in many ways.
I don't know. I'm just a passionate,
Just a passionate Mongolian Frenchman. Tell us your website.
So my website is stevemorel.info. And then in the website there is actually 3 categories that can be interesting. The first is the sharing category. So in that category I share Morin Khuur melodies kind of like lesson for people that are abroad that wants to learn the Morin Khuur. I also learn all the things I use to learn the language. To people that wants to learn the language, it can be useful. It's not lesson. It's just sharing like some of my advice and the things I saw for the Cyrillic and a little bit later for the Mongol Bichik. And then I also work on making short video about the culture. So it can be shared about the horok, how to make Tovshuur, the different color of the horse or whatever, like every question that people can have. There is a shop to buy calligraphies and stone seals. And the last part is about the book. So there is explanation of what is the book in detail with like what is the real intention, who can use it and these kind of things, and the crowdfunding. So if people wants to kind of pre-order or just help give money for the printing. And also I want to contribute to the people who helped me, even though they do it for free and out of how to say, out of kind heart. I still want to give a little contribution because every effort needs to be rewarded somehow. So I want also to help them. So that's it.
I hope this episode brings you some good fortune. I wish you all the best with that. Amjad Hossi, you certainly are deserving of praise, and I hope this book sells like nothing we've seen before. We need this in Mongolia. I mean, many foreigners are very curious about what you've been talking about, and there isn't a whole lot of information on it. So I wish you all the best. Okay, now would you please play us something on the Morin Khuur?
Okay.
Electrifying.
Sånn bayırla.
Bayırla. Oh, Steve gives me goosebumps. Amazing, bloody amazing. So amazed by you, proud of you, and wish you all the best. I hope to see you again in the future. This won't be the last time we meet. I look forward to getting my my book from you, and wish you all the best. And that's all for today, viewers on the MNC network. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.